Hello and welcome back to the final whistle. We're so excited to be back. We're about to talk about the Battle of the Bridges, and then we've got the high school edition of the Battle of the Palouse. Both of those games are happening this Friday at 7 p.m. Let's start with the Battle of the Bridges. We've got Lewiston hosting Clarkston for the first time ever at their brand new P1FCU sports complex. We've got Lewiston going into this game at 0-3. Facing Clarkston, going into this game as 0-1. Both schools looking for their first win. Trevor, what should we know about Lewiston?
Well, first off, first-year coaches with Zane Hobart in Lewiston and Kyle Fox in Clarkston, both who are alumni of the university. I mean, not the university, the schools that they went to.
Yeah.
Lewiston started off 0-3. Didn't look very strong their first three outings.
Lewiston is running, a new offense with Justin Podrapsky, a former Idaho tight end, another Lewiston alumni. Their opening day QB is Mason Way, and he is out with an injury. They hope that he's back after their bye week in October, but he will not be back, as far as I know, for this game. And so they have a backup quarterback in Blaze Hepburn, who stepped in for that post-Falls game. He threw, 3 touchdown passes. We had a really good command of the offense. And, when Lewiston wasn't, shooting themselves in the foot with some turnovers near the goal line, Lewiston was really able to get some stuff going. They were able to, find Mike Earl and other guys deep down the field. They were able to, get Cal Robbins, the son of Lewis Clark State College baseball coach Jeremiah Robbins, involved at the goal line for a touchdown pass. And then Austin Top was, he actually took the top of the defense himself. He has quite the arm. He was able to they ran a trick play, and Austin Top aired it out to Mike Earl to put them at the foot of the end zone. And then on the other side, you've got Clarkston, who just has one game under their belt. They lost to Moscow 23-18 last Friday on the road. But the Bantams, they also have a first-time starting quarterback in Kendrick Gimlin, a sophomore, multi-sport athlete. He looked pretty good throwing the football. He didn't have a lot of time sometimes with that offensive line. Moscow had a tough front seven. Lewiston also has a really tough defense, and so it'll be tough to see how Clarkson stacks up. But I think that they've got a lot of talented guys. They've got Alex Schaefer, a wide receiver who kind of caught the ball kind of along the sideline and took it 47 yards at the end zone for a touchdown in their game against Moscow. And they had a defense that was able to create multiple turnovers against Moscow. The Clarkson's problem in that game against Moscow was they gave the ball right back to the Bears on the 2 times that they did force turnovers. And so they got the ball and then they gave it right back to Moscow on the next offensive play. And so taking care of the footballs, it's always critical, but especially against a team like Lewiston, it's going to be absolutely critical for Clarkston.
You also see, obviously Lewiston's played 3 games. Clarkston's only played 1.
Yeah.
Idaho and Washington. Obviously, Lewiston's going to kind of have an advantage there. Already been playing games when Clarkston's only played 1 game, where they're kind of in the middle of their season already, where Clarkson's beginning their season. So, talk about the advantage that Lewiston might have, I guess, there.
Yeah, the Bantams are major underdogs in that sense that they've only played 1 game and that Lewiston's played 3. Both teams are obviously hungry, looking for that first win. But you also just look at the towns. If you were to kind of classify Clarkston based on the size of the town, Clarkston, a town of 7,000, Pulls from a little larger area than that. Lewiston, a town of 33,000. It's interesting because Pullman is a similar size as Lewiston. Yet they're in Clarkston's league, and they kind of stack up against each other. Pullman in recent years has also gotten an edge over Clarkston, and so the Bantams have kind of been pushed around for a few years, and so it's with a new staff and a new head coach, obviously the same staff as before, and some younger players in those roles. You got to think that. They're not thinking about the all-time. They might be thinking about the all-time record, but they're not thinking about it as a form of discouragement. Ideally, they're using it as motivation, being like, "Hey, yeah, we're the underdogs, but let's walk into Lewiston and get a dub." And so you're going to see a very motivated Clarkston team, probably a very motivated Lewiston team as well. Obviously, both teams looking for that first win, as I've said, and so it should be a really entertaining Battle of the Bridges. I know Lewiston has taken the contest by wide margins in recent years, and that may happen again, but. That there's a reason they play the games. And so, you got to see Lewiston and Clarkston line up against each other, see how that goes in the beautiful new complex overlooking the Snake or Clearwater River, and see how that all goes. So looking forward to a really fun game Friday night at 7 p.m.
And then just moving over to the Battle of the Palouse, so the high school edition, Moscow and Pullman. Moscow is off to a 2-1 start. They just beat Clarkston, as you mentioned, 23-18. One thing about Moscow that I got to cover the preview tab for them. Uh, One thing that I would say is their quarterback, Wyatt Cross, son of Sheldon Cross, the tight ends coach and recruiting coordinator at U of I. He's 6'3", 175 pounds, and he's a freshman. He's a pocket passer. He's really accurate and can really throw the ball.
Absolutely right to highlight Wyatt Cross because he's going to be really the key to this game. Freshman quarterback, 15 years old, moved with his dad and his family from the Orlando, Florida area. And so, he was used, even just at the middle school level, he's used to kind of, maybe tougher competition than this area may possess just because of populations. Obviously Orlando's a major city with millions of people. And then you have, you're moving to Moscow and you're, one of 33,000 people in a town. There's just a major difference there. And so he brings his talent. He's super young, obviously just 15 years old and a freshman, but his talent is already shown and he's been able to really direct the offense well. Rob Bafus said that, you can tell that Wyatt's a freshman because of some of the freshman mistakes he makes, but his maturity is off the charts. Coach Bafus was saying that, whenever Wyatt makes a mistake, he, recognizes it immediately, looks at the sideline, taps his heart, say, that's on me. I got the next one. And he can continue to improve and continue to develop. Bafus said he sees him maturing every snap. And so it's been, the future's bright for Moscow football with Wyatt Cross. And, I think Pullman has had the advantage in recent years in that rivalry. Actually, Coach Bafus, Coach Bafus has been coach for 4 years now, and they've this is fourth year, and he's never won in Pullman, and so winning in Hobbs Field in Pullman, that's where he grew up, and Pullman at Pullman High School in Hobbs Field, and so Bafus did, and so he's looking to return home a little bit and claim a win for his new school of several years, Moscow. Pullman is kind of an older team in that they have some returning starters. They have a third-year quarterback in Connor Stewart. They've got kind of an experienced team. Lakeside's obviously a large school, and so it's kind of that's with these early non-conference games. It's understandable that you go on the road and then get kicked around. Pullman will be hungry. The Hounds will be hungry. They'll be looking to feed and defend their home. It's their home opener in addition to this rivalry game, and so it'll be pretty exciting.
And then moving on to college football, I covered Idaho and St. Thomas this week, and you covered WSU and San Diego State. Tell me about WSU and San Diego State, Sam.
In the Battle of the Palouse, Wazoo versus Idaho, the Cougar offense just looked anemic. They could not move the ball to save their life. Rogers kept his starting quarterback decision close to his chest until to the point where they didn't even announce a quarterback in the stadium PA. Yeah, just like can you imagine the disrespect? And they had, oars next to everybody's name on the depth chart, 47 total oars. That's just not normal. Gamesmanship, whatever you want to call it. But, you kind of felt like maybe some of those actions were biting them when it came to the actual on-field execution, just because they just weren't executing. There were so many mental mistakes and physical mistakes, and just especially in the run blocking. Wazoo got a grand total of 3 net rushing yards versus Idaho. Now, fast forward to San Diego State. That number jumped from 3 to 139 rushing yards against San Diego State. Jackson Potter threw 3 touchdowns. He threw just 1 against Idaho. He had a pretty good command of the offense. He's just been pretty impressive. Obviously, Potter, he was in a quarterback room. He's been in the quarterback room for the last 2 years, backing up Cam Ward and backing up John Mateer. So sitting behind those guys. He also has a great relationship with Zevi Eckhouse, the senior QB, who many expected to win the job, but Zevi didn't win the job. Potter did. Potter won the job, Rogers says, because of his ability to manage, eliminate negative plays. He has yet to take a sack in a game through 2 games, so that's pretty impressive. He's yet to throw an interception through 2 games, so that's pretty impressive. And his ability to command the 2-minute drill, as he did against Idaho to set up that game-winning field goal. That showed in practice, and that's why he has the ball now. And then defensively, you've kind of just seen the defense that Rogers advertised at South Dakota State. Obviously, South Dakota State, a 2-time FCS national champion with Rogers, first as DC and then as head coach in 2022 and 2023 respectively. And a lot of those guys, there's 6 starters along Wazoo's defense who played for Rogers at South Dakota State, and especially in the secondary there. That's really shown up. And you haven't even seen Cale Reeder take a snap yet. One of their top safeties has been out with injury the last 2 games. He's expected to be back into North Texas. But guys like safety Tucker Lard, linebacker Caleb Franzel, who had 11 tackles versus Idaho, and Max Balloon, and then internal guys like Bobby Terrell, Isaac Terrell, nicknamed Bobby. He had a sack for a safety against San Diego State, and then Buda Palati, a New Mexico State transfer. He was all over the backfield as well, alongside Bobby, and they're kind of a 1-2 punch along the edges. And so this Wazoo defense is deep, and then the offense, took a major step from week 1 to week 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of Idaho, I got to cover obviously the Battle of Palouse.
Yeah.
Again, where you said the offense kind of looked anemic for WSU, it kind of looked anemic for Idaho as well.
Right, just 33 passing yards for Idaho, right?
33 passing yards. They had Joshua Wood had 101 on the ground.
Yeah.
They ran the ball fine, but it was mainly an issue with the passing game. And then all of a sudden, again, only scoring 10 points. Then all of a sudden against St. Thomas, they scored 37 points. So a big difference there. Joshua Wood looked completely different. The offense looked completely different. Joshua Wood against St. Thomas went 20 for 25 with 281 yards, 3 touchdowns, had 87 rushing yards, and also had a 59-yard score.
Right, yeah.
Which was kind of the dagger in the game. But the offense looked terrific. It looked they had like 474 total yards, something like that. So huge explosive plays. Had like 3 or 4 or over like 40 yards. The defense, though, they struggled. They gave up over 400 yards. Against Wazoo, they only have, 211 yards or so?
Yeah.
And then 3 rushing yards. But against, I think, it was almost 212 yards or so against St. Thomas rushing.
Wow.
Where their quarterback, Andy Peters, really ran for a lot of yards. The defense didn't look terrific, but if they can find that balance of the Wazoo game and the St. Thomas game, they could be a dangerous team in the Big Sky going forward.
And St. Thomas is deceivingly good in that this is their first year at the D1 level, right?
Yes.
But they were kicked out of their previous conference at D3 because they were too good. They won like 7 conference championships over 10 years, right?
They were literally too good. And they said for parity reasons, we need to kick you out. And
that's hilarious.
That's what happened. This is their first official year in D1 football. But, I mean, they won last week, and then they just lost against Idaho this week. So, they're a good team. They're solid. Thomas Ford said that maybe the team doubted them a little bit, didn't think of them as a fully great D1 school, and they definitely are a really good D1 school. They can put up fights against really good teams in the FCS division and be a very good D1 school, as St. Thomas is.
Totally. Could we, the St. Thomas good enough? Can we see like an FCS playoff rematch? Idaho, St.
Probably
Thomas?
not.
Probably not. There probably might be 2 lower seeds. So if they both make it at all.
I don't know if St. Thomas will make it to the playoff, but they're a good team. They're a good team. I would see Idaho definitely making the playoff. But then they do play Utah Tech at 1 p.m. this upcoming Saturday, and they should win that game as well. Idaho should. So we'll see how their offense does in that game as well.
They're back at the Kibbe Dome.
Back in the Kibbe Dome. Oh my gosh, the Kibbe Dome this Saturday was a sauna. They turned off the fans because the air quality outside was too bad. So it was just, I had a St. Thomas SID sitting next to me, and she said, it was 50 degrees in Minnesota today. And they flew over to Moscow, and it was like 80, 90 degrees with the sauna and the Kibbe Dome on,
And the wildfire smoke everywhere.
Yes, exactly. So, they were pretty shocked by the weather. Also, that weather had to get the players down a little bit, I assume, too. I mean, that's hot in there. That's hot in the Kibbe Dome.
Yeah.
But it was a fun time. It was a fun time in the Kibbe Dome. My first time officially covering a game at the Kibbe Dome was last Saturday. Nice. Incredibly cool experience. Yeah. Kibbe Dome is such a cool venue. The fans are electric, and just the whole stadium is a really cool guy. I mean, it's like one of the coolest venues in college football in general.
Yeah. And those, if you play NCAA 14, it's like your favorite stadium.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they need to put it back in the game, please. You got to. Anyway. So sweet. Awesome. Trevor, thank you so much for recapping Idaho for us. We're really excited to see, the rest of the Vandals season. That was a really encouraging battle of the Palouse between Wazoo and Idaho. Left a lot to despair on both sides, but also a lot to be encouraged by. And yeah, I'll be really, really interested to see where both Wazoo and Idaho end up. Idaho, again, hosting Utah Tech at 1 p.m. at the Kibbe Dome on Saturday. Wazoo hitting the road for the first time this season, going at North Texas. Kick off there at 12:30 p.m. on ESPNU.
Either way, I would say both teams should probably have 2 fun seasons.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially when you saw how much Wazoo was able to improve from week 1 to week 2. Jimmy Rogers, Wazoo head coach, stressed a lot about, not being complacent, which is something we've seen from Wazoo in recent years. The Jake Dickert era was kind of marred by these really hot starts. This is the 4th straight year Wazoo has started 2-0. And then these dreadful finishes where, they would lose like 6 straight, that one dreadful 2023 season, or, lose the last 3 last year when everyone's minds were on, where else they were going. And so that's going to be really key for Wazoo, is especially with all these seniors who, this is it. This is their last college football stop. Is that kind of a changed mindset? These guys making the jump from FCS to FBS is not going to be enough to hold them over and, keep them engaged through a really tough schedule. And so kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but this weekend marks the first of 4 multi-time zone trips for the Cougs. They're going at North Texas, at Ole Miss, at Virginia, and at James Madison. I believe if they can go 2-2 combined during that stretch, they'll be in for a solid season. That's kind of the mark. And so they're underdogs. They're like 5.5 point underdogs this weekend, facing Eric Morris, who was OC at Wazoo in 2022 and recruited Cam Ward and John Mateer. And so, maybe Jackson Potter, maybe he just missed Jackson Potter. I'm actually not sure. But anyway, and it'll be very curious to see how that unfolds. But talking way too much, way too excited. But anyway, thanks so much for joining us on the final whistle. Final whistle. Oh my gosh! Thanks so much, Trevor. And yeah, some great, obviously high school football this weekend, and some great college football the day after that. So for Trevor Junt, I'm Sam Taylor. Be sure to find all our coverage at elmtribune.com and in the Lewiston Tribune. Have a great one. Thanks.